Hey friends, thanks for tuning into this episode. I just wanted to give you a quick heads up before this one starts. I do apologize. You see, Leisel is a wonderful and awesome human who took time out of her weekend to spend to chat with me and is just, it's not fair to her that I was having some technical difficulties that resulted in some difficult audio quality here. I've done what I could to patch it up. In general, I'd like to think, I hope that in general the even though the arc of improvement may be slow, that it's toward improvement with this show's audio quality, volume and otherwise. But so I really am sorry, and especially I'm sorry to Liesel that I didn't do a better job with this one. I hope that the tweaking that I did with the audio afterward made it at least reasonably palatable, because I really enjoyed chatting with Liesel. She's a lovely person. I think this is a very enjoyable interview. If you can get past my poor job with the audio quality. That said, here it goes. Here's the episode. Enjoy it, and thanks again, and have a good one. Bye-bye. Before launching too far into this, do you pronounce your name Leisel or Leisel?
My family says Leisel with a soft S, and occasionally people say it with a hard S, and it sounds really cool to me, but definitely use a soft S, I guess, because that's what it really is, I suppose.
Yeah. Am I remembering right that one of the many children in The Sound of Music was named Leisel?
Yeah, the oldest.
Oh, yeah, the one who was 16 going on 17, right?
Yep. Spelled a bit differently from my name, but...
Yeah. That as far as musicals go, I don't know if it's the same experience for everybody, but I remember that being like the first musical that I was very enthusiastic about as a child, and I see that that's the same for my kids, and I know it was the same for my cousins, so I wonder if there's something, maybe because there are so many kids in it, maybe it makes it appealing for kids.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, comparatively to other musicals that you could have been watching, it's very family-centered, I guess. Yeah,
it totally makes sense. So do you ever get into musicals yourself? Like, were you into Sound of Music, and did you think to yourself, like, I'm also Liesel?
Well, it certainly was special. It was a special part about me because I mean, you have the same name as a character on TV, and as far as, I mean, like, I enjoy watching musicals, but I've never performed in one.
So, but you have performed with bagpipes.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that then, Leisel. I know, so what I know so far is that your family pronounces your name with a soft S, and that you play bagpipes. So, fill in all the gaps for me.
Yeah, okay. Well, so I was raised homeschooled.
Oh, were you?
I don't have, yeah.
Do you feel like you turned out normal all the same?
Yeah, I mean, there's some difference.
I say that. What's the word for it? Facetiously? I say that like, tongue in cheek.
Yeah, because I mean, I certainly know the stigma behind homeschoolers. Yeah. I'm the oldest of 8 kids, and so my family is a little bit VonTrappy, I guess.
There's more connections there. Man, I don't mean to keep interrupting you, Leisel, but just imagining a homeschooling situation where you're the oldest of 8, did you find yourself becoming a teacher pretty quickly?
I guess. I mean, so we didn't experience a lot of school at home when I was homeschooling. Like when I have 4 siblings that continued homeschooling after I got married and left the house, So, but while I was at home, it was more of a unschool experience where we kind of fell into learning rather than having a structured situation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm told that I taught my sister how to read, but that's just because I was always reading around her. So, yeah.
That sounds really cool. Like, I don't know about other parents, but like I had never paused to question the schooling system until my own children were going into it. that mostly just that I have my kids started out with I started out with all boys. I feel like my daughter, by the time she went to kindergarten, she was ready for it, socially as well as intellectually, like totally ready to go. I'm not saying anything negative about my boys. I think just in general, my boys could have used 2 more years at home before going off, out into the wild,
Yeah, and there is something behind that, boys maturing later than girls, and it's just, it's a different experience for them. It's really not the best for every child to be set into the same situation as their age. Like they're put into age groups to do their learning, and there's like, if anybody's held back because they really need to be held back, they're really ostracized because of that.
Pretty heavy stigma there, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so then you fell into learning as a child. That's a fun experience. Carry on.
Yeah,
I'll try to not interrupt you too much.
Yeah. So when I was about 13 or 14, though, I had some neighborhood friends who were, of course, public schoolers. I don't think anybody in my close neighborhood really were into homeschooling, right? So they started playing musical instruments in junior high or in middle school.
Yeah.
I guess it would be back then. So they were in middle school, and when I was getting up to like 9th grade age, they invited me to come and play in the high school band, I guess.
Oh yeah.
I had to learn the instrument, so my friend was playing the trombone, and my dad had played trombone all through college, and so that's the instrument that we had available. And so I learned it and got into that.
Do you still play trombone at all?
I play, like, at Christmas and stuff. We have a set of Christmas music that I can play.
I feel like
me and my dad and
don't you play with Wasatch District, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't Bethea also play trombone? I feel like I saw videos of her playing trombone on social media not long ago.
Yeah, Bethea is really, really a fun person, and we're nearly the same, but still so different,
Yeah.
So she played trombone too.
Oh, right on.
But she was not the childhood friend that I have. No.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, and my husband actually played trombone.
Oh, really?
Through high school and college too. So we've got a trio here that we do occasional.
That's the Christmas set. It's you and your husband and your dad.
Yeah.
Cool. That's way cool.
Fun. So that started me on my musical path. Really, I mean, before that, I did play a lot of piano. My dad was into piano as well, and so I played piano occasionally, and it was really fun. And then I got into high school symphonic band, and it was the first assembly of the year. So I was going to high school only for band. That was my one class that I left the house to go do. And then
I remember the kids like that who would show up just for choir or something. It's like, who is that kid? That's a homeschool kid. Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Weirdos.
Yeah, one of those.
Yeah. So it was the first assembly of the school year, though, and that was my first time ever hearing like a pipe band play, because I was going to Ben Lomond High School up in Ogden.
Oh, you went to Ben Lomond. Awesome.
Right. So yeah, we that was kind of a serendipitous coincidence, I guess.
But then, wait, Leisel, what years were you doing the high school program at Ben Lomond?
I was a freshman in 2000, so I guess a graduate in 2004.
Gotcha.
Not a graduate, though, because I didn't take any history or math or anything, but yeah. So I finished in 2004.
I'm just curious, because that's around the same time period that I would have interacted with Ben Lomond High School pipe band sometimes myself as well. So that's.
Oh yeah. What?
It was 2004. 2004 is when I entered the pipe band world in general, and that.
Oh, okay.
And since I was down in Payson, Ben Lomond was like the only other school program. Yeah, exactly. So very much aware of Ben Lomond. Yeah.
Yeah. So we just missed each other, I guess. There. Um, yeah, so I heard the pipe band play in the assembly, and I instantly needed to play that.
Yeah,
I needed to play with that group. It was a very, what is that phrase? Religious people call it a spiritual experience, but it's like where you get chills all over your body, and you're like, this is my calling. I'm meant to do this, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
I felt that at that assembly. And the very next semester, I got into beginning pipe band. So
that's awesome. So
that was when I started.
Do you remember that being the kind of the first, surely you'd heard of bagpipes before then, but like, had you gone to like a Scottish festival or seen them in parades and that was just a special moment where it really hit you? Or was that like, it was really new?
That was really my first exposure outside of like occasionally seeing one on a TV show or something. I've never seen one in person. I've never seen a person play bagpipes in person before that. So
I think that's super cool, Leisel, because like I don't know if there's any way to gather empirical data for this, you know, but it feels like, and maybe this is the case for a lot of other instruments too. I don't know, but it sounds to me like I played trumpet when I was in junior high. I think kind of similar to your experience with trombone, where like my dad had played trumpet and he had one, and that's basically why I played, you know. But then why bagpipes? You know, it feels like so many people have an experience like that, like, you know, even if it's a distant memory from when they were a small child, just a huge impression when they went to a wedding or a funeral or in a parade or something, you know, where like it wasn't just that's cool, it was I need to do that, you know, like it goes deep.
Yeah, it's very emotional, right? Yeah. So when I got into the beginning band, I at first wanted to, so I started learning the pipes, but I had my eye on the tenor drum, and so
interesting.
So the first semester I was on my chanter, but I was watching the pipe band, and I'm like, you know what? I think next term, I'm switching to the tenor drum. So I bought a pair of mallets, but somebody else, I don't remember the exact situation, but like somehow they ended up with my mallets, and I already had my chanter, and so they learned tenor drum, and I continued on the chanter.
Like somebody else in the class?
Yeah. Yeah, somehow, I mean, maybe I lent them to them, or they needed them for something, and like I just never got them back. I don't know.
Wow, what a twist of fate there. That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, have you ever been able to go back to tenor since then, or was that just kind of that was that?
Certainly, yeah. And in 2016, I started learning tenor.
Oh, good, because I was going to say, if you never got to, we got to start a GoFundMe to get you your own mallets or something.
I have like 6 pairs of mallets.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm actually the lead tenor for Wasatch District at this point. So,
oh, are you? See, Leisel, I've seen you play pipes. I've seen you solo on your pipes. I didn't realize that you played tenor, so that's awesome. You're the lead tenor, huh? That's great.
Yeah, it's been really fun, and people ask me all the time if I had to choose one or the other, which one would I pick? And I can't. I have to do both. I'm a piper and I'm a tenor drummer.
Not to mention a trombone player as well.
Yeah.
Can't leave that out.
Right. I don't wear T-shirts to say I'm a tenor
right, yeah.
player. It's not as impressive.
Yeah. That is a funny thing, right? Like, what are all the elements that make it so that we identify as pipers and drummers, you know?
Yeah.
Where, like, I bet that there probably are people in the world who identify, you know, them like a core part of their what they are is, you know, I am a bassoonist, you know.
Oh yeah.
But of course, we're in our world, and so it seems like that's unique to what we do, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's where I started.
Does the trombone does the trombone play in? Is it a B flat instrument?
Yes.
Well, that's convenient. Have you ever done some trombone and B flat bagpipe stuff?
No, I just got. I mean, I've never played with somebody that has a B flat bagpipes, I guess. So I've never paired that, and I just got my first B-flat chanter last year too, so I haven't had much experience playing with my husband or my dad on there either, but I now know it's possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be something to try out.
Well, let's see, Wasatch District does their summer concert in the park thing, right?
Yes.
Well, between you and Bethia, like, either one of you can hop on the pipes and the other on the trombone. You could bust out some cool stuff for that concert, huh?
Oh my gosh!
I want to see it.
That's a great idea. I'm gonna write that down. So
yeah, take note. I want to see that.
Yeah, we're every now and then when we're planning that concert, we throw out the idea we should have like smaller ensembles or bring in different instruments. There was one year that we did bring in different instruments. We had a mandolin player in our pipe band for a minute.
Oh, that was Aaron, right? I saw a video from that one.
Yeah, and that was a really fun experience. Like, even for the pipers, like, we're just used to hearing pipes, but hearing the mandolin and the pipes and the drum.
Oh, right. Somebody had a hand drum of some kind, like a djembe or something like that, right?
Yeah, djembe. Yeah. Yes. So that was really, really fun for everyone in the band to see too. And I just want to, like, every now and then we talk about bringing stuff like that back, but then it always ends up that we're like 3 weeks away from the concert time, the date, and we're like scrambling.
So relatable. I totally understand. Yeah. Yeah. Like every time it's fine. Like, we just fill time with common marches. We just got to make it happen.
Yeah. I'm going to start preparing for that way earlier.
Yeah. So while you're lead tenor drummer, I'm sure that keeps you busy on competition days, but are you still able to go solo on your pipes in between the band competitions? Or do you solo on tenor too? Do you like to compete there?
Yeah, so I haven't soloed. I didn't solo last year, but the year before that, I soloed on my pipes and on the tenor drum. And well, no, not the year before that. Before COVID.
Oh, yeah. COVID makes it weird, right?
2019 was the last time. Yeah. So that was the last time I soloed on both. But it's pretty easy to do on both of them because, I mean, if you know your music, it's... Yeah. You just, I don't know. The times usually line up really well. Drummers don't often go at the same time as the grade 4 pipers. So...
But do you... Man, I feel suddenly like I'm being somehow discriminatory that I can't even think of having watched very closely tenor drumming solos. And so, like, I have a very clear picture in my head of how the side drum solo goes. I'm assuming you have a piper play with you, right?
Yeah, we have a pipe accompaniment and a snare. I don't know. I think the snare is required because you have to... Really? Yeah,
well, now I feel like very silly. Like, how decades and I haven't known this. That's on me, man. So you're a 3-part setup there.
Yeah, and it's really fun. My first solo I went on with my drum, I had a snare and a piper, and I don't know why we weren't exactly synced up. Maybe we just didn't have enough practice time together. And so I got them both together so that they could play the accompaniment part, and I recorded it, and then I just used the recording for my subsequent solos after that, and it was really, really easy after that.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
It almost feels like cheating to have a recording.
Yeah.
But they felt better about it. They're like, I'm really sorry I screwed that up for you. I'm like, yeah, it's okay.
Oh, man, I'll tell you what. I think I've probably played pipes to accompany snare solos more than I've soloed myself on pipes.
Oh, yeah?
And I don't, and that's not because I chose it, because it's more like just there's a need that day, you know. But I feel like that's more stressful than I would rather solo by myself than be somebody's accompanist. Because if you screw it up for your friend, you know. That's stressful.
That's what a lot of people say. But I haven't done that yet.
It also seems to me like not only do I feel silly for not even knowing how a tenor drum solo goes, but just like that sounds so spectator friendly, you know, it's a little trio of music, you know, not that, you know, but pipes all by themselves aren't fun. Of course I like that, but you know, speaking of, you know, having the mandolin and the djembe and stuff, it's just fun, you know, that a little trio that would be right where I'd want to be on competition day. That sounds like a lot of fun to listen to.
Yeah, and watch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's and in our tenor drum solos, we do get judged a little bit on our flourishing too.
Oh,
so,
of course, yeah.
like in the band circle, you're not judged on that, and so it gives us an opportunity to show off 4 points, you know?
Yeah. So I'm pretty darn ignorant when it comes to flourishes. So if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you some really probably very rudimentary questions about flourishing.
Okay.
Mostly, I'm just curious. Like, I guess I'm not even sure what questions to ask. Other than this is the main thing in my head is I've always kind of wondered, like, from band to band, is there a difference in the standard flourishes you'll see, or is that so standardized that it's going to be the same everywhere? And from there, when you go to solo, is it smiled upon to kind of come up with your own stuff, your own variations on flourishes, or is that frowned upon? You need to do it like it needs to be precisely the right way.
All right. So, as far as competition sets, every band has a different set of flourishes, and I mean they're all basically the same movements at the very base level. You know, we all have an in-out spin and a inside-forward spin, and I mean those are like the black and white way to call them. You know, you're spinning in and inside and then outside, right? But in Wasatch and District, we call that an A-frame. We call the inside forward spin a cartwheel. Other bands might call them pinwheels or just ins and outs. You know, we all have different names for these movements, but we all know all of the movements.
Yeah.
At least once we get up into the grade 2, grade 1 level. So each band has their own set of flourishes, but in mass bands, just recently we've been doing, you know, the Anapaba mass band setting to get it all uniform in between all of the bands in Anapaba.
Right.
And so now we have a set of flourishes that we can all of the tenor drummers, like at Pleasanton, can look the same. We can all be just as uniform as each other, and I think it really, I mean, last year we didn't do such a good job at it, but when we get it, when we all of the bands get it, it will look really amazing.
Oh, I don't doubt it. Yeah, I'm imagining it. I mean, there's always got to be room at mass bands. You know, you can't have your expectations too high, right? That's a lot of individual people, but still, I'm sure it's going to look awesome.
Different levels.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but then, when you like when it's just you soloing or just your band solo, just your band competing, how much are you jazzing it up and being unique?
So, in solos, we try to be as flashy and jazzy as we can.
Yeah.
You want to. That's where you can throw in all of your extra stuff. In the band circle, you still have to match your other tenor drummers.
Sure,
so
yeah.
You try and write flourishing that everyone can do and that everyone can make look good. I mean, because like sometimes you can do a movement, but you just can't make it look good. Mm-hmm. So we try and narrow it down to things that will really look uniform. We're going for a very uniform look in the band circle. But I could play a band tune. I could play a band set as my solo set, and I'll just change up the flourishing a bit to add things that I look really good doing, you know? So.
What do you feel like is the muscle group that's most taxed when playing the tenor drum? Like, is a lot of that in your wrist? Your arms are up so much. I've got to imagine your arms are going to sleep and your shoulders are getting exhausted.
Well, they come down so much too.
Yeah, fair enough. But, they don't spend all their time in the air, do they?
Yeah, definitely our shoulders. That's where you feel it a lot. Our wrists, they move a lot, but they're not. They don't have to hold. I don't know, strength. You don't have to use your wrist strength as much as you do your shoulder strength. Mm-hmm. So, when you start having shoulder pain, then you start worrying, am I even gonna be able to flourish this year, you know?
Right, yeah.
But it all works out, I guess. I don't know. We have a player in our band that does shoulder tape during rehearsals during the summer, and she does really good.
Yeah.
At the end, like at competitions and stuff. In spite of that.
Well, I imagine it's very relatable to the fear and anxiety that pipers have about things like, focal dystonia and stuff like that affecting their fingers.
Yeah. Yep.
Indeed, the parallel I think is probably a clear one between the flourishing and the embellishments that are played on pipes. That's part of why I wondered. You know how it just like the embellishments you can play on your pipes. Of course, if you're playing by yourself for fun, you can kind of make stuff up and kind of get funky. But if you're playing in a band, a doubling is a doubling, a grip is a grip. It's very locked down.
You play them differently in a band than you do in a solo.
Right. Right.
Yep.
So
it's very similar to that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, super cool. So then what about the mallets themselves? Because I feel like I've seen, some of them I see are, so fluffy. It's like the cutest creature from Sesame Street, But others are more like a heart.
From Star Trek, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what they look like, yeah. But then others seem like they have they're just built different. They look like they're probably heavier, probably tighter, and not nearly as much fluff going on. Is this mostly sound, mostly looks? Do you have an optimum weight for the flourishes, and is there a range in weight that you could purchase? So it's like, I want some heavy ones, I want some medium ones, that kind of thing?
Yeah, there is not weight options. There's different weights between makers, and so some people really like Tie Fry, some people like Jordan Bailey's, some people like Andante, and they do feel different between mallet makers.
Yeah.
You can't go to one mallet maker and say, I want heavy mallets or light mallets,
Gotcha. Is it the same for the length of the stick? Does that also vary, or is that locked down?
I think I know of one maker that will give you short sticks versus long sticks, but most of them are just, all of their mallets are that length, whatever length they have. And they're all pretty similar in between. Mm-hmm. Comparing makers,
Yeah.
As far as fluffiness, I think that's just down to how new the mallets are.
Oh, really?
The fluffier they are.
The ones that I've seen that look less fluffy, they're just older mallets. They've
just been used for a couple more seasons. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, just in right before COVID, we got some new mallets for our pipe band, and we set rules, these are your competition and your performance mallets. Don't use them at practice, We just want them to look good for as long as we can get them.
Yeah. Do you ever, have you ever seen bass drummers who do flourishes?
Oh, yeah. I think it's awesome.
I think it's so cool, too, and it's, so I've wondered before, though, to be able to pull that off, is this most likely an accomplished tenor drummer who's now applying their learned skills to the bass drum? I don't know. I'm feeling so ignorant right now, Leisel, but I don't even know. Or is that a thing that bass drummers can learn? Is there a book of flourishes for bass drum mallets, just like there's a book of flourishes for tenor drum mallets?
Yeah, not that I know of. I don't think there is a class you could take on bass drum flourishing. And I don't know, I have no idea if the bass drummers that do flourish, if they're former tenor drummers or anything.
Yeah.
I know our bass drummer in the grade 4, Vivian Dearden, she's a tenor drummer originally, but she doesn't do flourishes aside from doing a big swoop above her head every now and then,
Mm-hmm.
But, I think it looks really cool. You do have to, get used to wearing strings on your hands if they do that.
Right, yeah.
Which is a different thing altogether versus, holding a mallet versus letting a mallet fly and then being able to catch it. Especially if it's so big, like the bass mallet.
Right, I'd be worried about my wrist health. You catch it and it just keeps going.
Yeah.
I've watched the tenor drummers,
twist up.
I've watched tenor drummer students before, and the instructor showing them how to wrap the string around knuckles and stuff like that. Is that something that each tenor drummer will do differently? They'll just figure out, how many wraps around the middle finger versus the pointer, etc., to get it just right, or is that something that is kind of established, everybody does it the same way?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. I know of 2 ways that you can tie your mallets to your fingers. There might be more, but I've only seen anybody wearing them one of these 2 ways. You could start the knot on your pinky and then cross over the strings and put it on your ring finger. And then you put it behind your middle finger and on top of your pointer. So that was the way that I started in 2016, but then after a couple of years, now I do it the other way, which I think is more comfortable, which is you pull the knot of the strings up between your pinky and your ring finger, and then you bring it back over those 2 fingers, so you've created kind of like a Celtic knot, kind of.
That's kind of fun. Yeah.
And then behind your middle finger and on top of your pointer. So I mean, either way, it's got to go behind your middle finger and on top of your pointer, because your pointer's like the pivot point for the ball of your mallet at the end of the stick. You know?
Right, that makes sense.
So I know a lot of people like it the first way, and a lot of people like it the second way, and you just play with it to see like how does it work for me. You know, it's not a standard thing. We don't declare everybody must use this other way, this special knot, you know, because it doesn't look any different in your flourishes. You know?
Right.
But I do tie my strings symmetrical. I tie the knots symmetrical so that I have a left-hand mallet and a right-hand mallet. And that
interesting.
matters a lot.
So
like if I get them on the wrong hand, I can't do my flourishes.
Yeah, you can tell the difference, huh?
Yeah.
That is interesting. The I feel like I'm so ignorant of all this stuff. I don't know much about harnesses either. But I've seen tenor drums dropped before because of a hook-in harness, and so like then when a step was taken, it popped off of the hook, you know?
Oh yeah.
Is that kind of the harness, or do you have other options for tenor drums that wouldn't be as likely to drop the drum?
Yeah, so in the hook, sometimes the hook is on the harness and it hooks onto the drum. Sometimes the drum has the hook and it hooks onto your harness. You know, there's not just one type of harness either. Some people wear just an over-the-shoulder strap, and that's all. Yeah. You know, in our pipe band, most of us have the over-the-shoulder, but then also around the hips strap, and that has a hoop that the hook on our drum connects to. But we also have like a clamp clip thing that you can open up and hook onto something too. I don't see people's drums falling off very often in our band especially, but I imagine that would happen if you have, especially if you're wearing your drum too low or too high and like your knee is pushing up on your drum out of the harness too.
That's the situation where I feel like I've seen it most, is like usually in a parade setting, and like maybe the drummer's trying to make an adjustment or something like that too, and it's when the knee comes along, the knee kind of pushes it up and out and then tumbles.
Pushes it right out. Yeah, parades are really hard for tenor drummers. And
it seems like not a great setup for walking, you know.
Yeah, you have to walk differently. So my first parade, I walked normal with my tenor drum bouncing on my knee, and I thought it was fine, but at the end of the parade I had like a 6-inch bruise on my left knee.
Oh yeah.
From just the drum bouncing on it. It didn't feel like it didn't hurt much, but apparently it was trauma enough to create a really ugly bruise.
I'd imagine it would wear a spot in your kilt too, which nobody wants.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually over time, right?
Yeah, I would say that first parade too, I had my kilt kept like riding up on that knee. Oh yeah,
the drum would just push it up out of the way.
It was really difficult keeping my kilt straight.
Yeah.
You know, it's just one of those things you need to learn how to deal with it through experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. After that, I started walking in parades differently. You kind of walk with kind of a big right step and then a little left step, big right step, and so at the end of parades, my hips are all out of whack.
Yeah, I'm sure.
How funny I've been walking.
This is kind of a pick your poison situation.
Right.
I was feeling bad for the bass drummer. I think I feel worse for the tenor drummers now.
Yeah, at least the bass drummers can walk.
Can walk straight. They might trip over stuff because they can't see where they're going, but at least they can walk straight.
Oh yeah, it takes a lot of trust in your band members.
Yeah, that's for sure. Now, what about what? I kind of want to go back a little bit. How did your parents react when you first said, "Hey, I've got to play bagpipes"?
I don't really remember. I feel like it was not something that was like, oh, this is so exciting, or oh my gosh, this is going to cost so much money. You know, I don't know. It was. To be fair, back then my parents were incredibly busy with a home business that they had, and so it was like.
Not to mention a few kids. They had a few kids to handle too.
They had a few kids. Yeah.
Maybe to some degree it's like, Leisel, go do what you want. We're busy.
Right, yeah. And my mom even had another kid like 2 years after I started playing too, so it was, they had their own stuff to deal with. They just were happy that I wasn't getting into trouble.
Yeah.
I guess.
I think to some degree we could relate to each other, Leisel. My parents only had 7 kids, so they weren't too crazy, right?
Only
yeah, only 7. But the 7th was born when I was 17.
Yeah.
Maybe going on 18, and so it's kind of like, to some degree at some point, I think the oldest kid does. In fact, the 5th child called me mom for quite a while. And I'm not trying to say anything negative about my parents. They were busy, but after 5 kids, and I think the 5th was born when I was like 14 maybe. I remember one time my dad was carrying him around and he was just crying and screaming because he didn't want my dad, and he saw me and he went, "Mom," and reached for me. So just at some point the oldest, right, is like doing their own thing, and they kind of need to be.
Yeah, I think my parents were really, it was a blessing for them that I was so independent.
Yeah, I think necessary, huh?
Yeah, but, I certainly helped out with my siblings. And
Hello, friends. Just a quick note to make you aware, this podcast is something that I love doing, and I will keep doing it no matter what. But if you want to send me money, I won't say a nay. The easiest way to do that is through Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/DroningOnPodcast. We do regular drawings for bagpipey albums, books, sheet music, and more, including Droning On swag. All patrons are in the figurative hat from whence the names of winners are drawn, and there are other benefits to members as well. They're all listed there at patreon.com/DroningOnPodcast. And speaking of swag, another way to support the show is to buy cool stuff from my little online shop, bagpipeswag.com. There you can find Droning On stuff, as well as other pipey and drummy things that my friends and I make. And if you feel so inclined, I genuinely invite you to follow the show on Facebook. It's super fun to have a way to interact over there, to discuss past episodes, and I also like to bounce ideas off of you, my friends, ask you for input on upcoming interviews, that kind of stuff. I'd like to invite you to join in on virtual book clubs and probably lots of other cool stuff that I just haven't even thought of yet as of this recording. It's easy to find. Just get on Facebook and search Droning On Podcast. And if Instagram is more your jam, we're also on there at droning.on.podcast. You can also email the show at thedroningonpodcast@gmail.com. And links to these sites, social media accounts, and more are in the show notes. Leaving the show a positive rating and review helps others to find it, so feel free to do that. And thank you again for listening, you cool human you. Did any of your siblings pick up the pipes or drums?
No.
Yet?
I know, right? My youngest sibling is going to be 20 this year, and so far none of them have. They've shown dabbling interest in it. Like I have one brother that came to a few Scottish festivals with me, and he thought that was really cool. But then nothing ever came of that. And I have another brother that tried to learn tenor drum, like years before I started learning, and I guess he was experiencing wrist pain while he was trying to learn, and so he just dropped it, But aside of that, all of my siblings
I
don't know.
There's always the maybe someday. Mine also. I also have had no siblings take it up. Some showing dabbling interest, but yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. Do any of your siblings play other musical instruments?
Yeah, I've got a brother who plays trombone, believe it or not.
Oh, nice. Nice.
And most of them have picked up like piano and stuff like that. I have one sister who got pretty darn good on the cello, but yeah, haven't been able to convince any of them to play bagpipes or pipe drums.
Yeah. Well, they already know a piper, so they don't need to be it, I guess.
That's right, yeah. But like, what do you feel like is the general reaction of your closest friends and family, sort of like these days? Do you have enthusiastic people who love to hear you play every time you see them, or is it kind of old news at this point?
Well, I don't know. I think it's a mix.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sometimes to family reunions, I try and bring my bagpipes, and so I play a little bit, and they're all happy to see that. I have one uncle that says that the bagpipes are the worst sound in the world, and so
there you go. You got to have one of those.
Yeah, try not to play where he's at. I think somebody used me to play a prank on him when I was like a couple years into playing bagpipes.
Yeah,
and I feel like that's put a little bit of a damper between us.
Oh, no.
Our relationship isn't that good anymore. I was like 16 years old. Come on.
That's pretty funny, though.
It was just used as a pawn. Oh, well.
Isn't it funny the variety of human experience you can have when encountering the bagpipes, though? Think about that first experience you had that was like such a, like a transcendent, life-changing experience in a positive way, and how for some people...
And it was a high school band, too.
Right, yeah. But for some folks, some people could hear SFU and still be like, nope, that's the worst sound in the world.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's, I don't know, are our eardrums all different?
Right, yeah.
We experience sound differently, just like we experience taste differently.
Yeah. Ooh, you ever get deep into one of those like thought cycles where it's like, wait, like how do I know that what I see is what other people see?
Oh, yeah.
How do I know that what I look like in the mirror is even what I look like?
Right. Right, and with cell phone selfies, not flipping the image either. Like, you can see it, and it's like, oh yeah, that's what I look like in the mirror.
Right, yeah.
But then you're like, wait a minute, that's not actually what I look like.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yep. Leisel, if money were no object, do you have any piping and drumming related like dream vacations or trips or schools you'd want to go to, or instruments, awesome instrument setups? Like, if I gave you a blank check to be used on generally piping and drumming stuff, where would you go first?
I think first thing I would do would buy myself a set of Morrill bagpipes.
They make some pretty pipes. Yeah.
And they look really good, yeah. I can't honestly tell the difference between the sound of Morrill bagpipes and my McCallums. They all sound the same.
But the look is great, right?
Yeah, it looks really, really good.
Do you already have like a fantasized setup? Like you'd have like dark wood on this part and light wood on the other, or anything like that? Or was it just like in general you'd like something that looks cool?
It's mostly in general, but now that you're asking about that, I think it would be really cool. I don't even know if it's possible, but I would want every piece to be a different color wood.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, it's got to be possible.
How it would sound.
Yeah, right. You might unlock some really fascinating new sounds there. Yeah, who knows? Maybe the resonance from one thing to the other, right?
Oh, yeah, it might be really cool. So, if I had a blank check, that's probably the only thing I'd do. In 2004, I went, like the Ben Lomond pipe band did take a trip to Scotland and played in the World Championship and stuff, and so I feel like I've already done that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it would be cool to go again, but it's not like super high on my bucket list.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
What about other hobbies or interests or even obligations other than piping and drumming? What takes up time in your day? Or energy in your head too? Like what else is drawing you?
Everything, right? So, outside of pipe band, I have 3 kids. my oldest is 15, and my youngest is 8.
So Leisel, I gotta say, only 3?
Yeah, I know. I didn't have a whole lot of control over that, though. So my second kid was diagnosed with cancer when she was 2.5.
Oh, man.
And so for a little bit there, we were not trying to have more kids.
I'm sure that's a lot of intense attention on the kid you already have, for sure.
Yeah. So, but we did end up having my third about 6 months before she passed away, before my second passed away. And so, but then after that, I don't know, biologically it's been difficult to have more kids. And so we're just at this point where we have a 15-year-old and an 8-year-old, and everything seems right.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, right is right. I've always thought it was interesting to consider what the children from large families end up doing in that way, you know?
Yeah.
If the experience of having a large family makes you go, well, that's what I want too, or if the experience of having a large family makes you go, I think it might be nice to just, 2 or 3, and and kind of, or the opposite, does someone who grew up as an only child, dream of having 12 kids someday, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Well, and everybody's got, I guess, based on their experience growing up. I always loved the large family dynamic. It's felt right, and I have 15 new aunts and uncles.
Yeah.
Plus their spouses, so I've got 30.
Thanksgiving is a massive affair, I'm sure.
It's amazing. I love it so much.
Yeah.
And so going into having kids, I'm yeah, it'd be great to have 10 or 15 kids, But,
yeah.
Life doesn't always give you what you want.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
yeah.
And I certainly wouldn't mean in any way to be dismissive of how surely unimaginably difficult it is to lose a child, of course. And so in saying this, I don't mean to be dismissive of that, but it does seem to me like there's a sense of fullness or completeness that doesn't seem to necessarily have a number attached, and so maybe that happens when you hit 12 kids for some people, and maybe it happens when you have 1 for some people, and maybe it happens without even having kids for some people,
Oh yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Now,
so
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Right now, though, what's been taking up so much of my brain space is building a house.
Oh, wow.
With my brothers. My brothers are in construction, and so they started their own construction company, and my house was their first big project. And so I've been, when I say building a house, I mean I bought a nailer.
You're putting the sweat equity, they call it, into the house, huh?
Yeah, and I'm the one that painted the waterproofing on the foundation, and
wow.
So it's been a wild ride, and I imagine we'll be done with it by June of this year. And I don't know if I'll ever want to build a house again.
I was going to ask you, so is this the kind of thing that if you'd known what it would be like, you never would have done, but now you're in it, so you have to finish it?
I definitely would have just bought a house.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm coming out of it with a lot of experience and lessons learned, and so.
Well, and can you imagine, I live in a house that was built in the early 60s, and so it's a lot of repairs, a lot of fixing all the time. And one of the hard things is it's always a surprise, because at this point I have a decent idea of what's behind most of the walls because I've had to do so many repairs, right? But initially it's I don't even know what's back there, because I don't know how they built it. I don't know what repairs have been made since then and stuff like that. You have had this clear vision and even hands-on experience with every single little piece of your house. So imagine what a great position you'll be in to maintain it. Yeah.
And if I ever have to move out, I'll leave the next owners a photo book of the photos I've taken.
Oh, man.
This this is what kind of insulation we used, and this is what's under the slab in the basement.
Oh,
you need to know this.
Yeah, that's a dream situation right there to have all that info.
Yeah.
Are you building close, like in a similar neighborhood to where you're living right now, or are you making a big move?
No, it's pretty close. I mean, it's still in Ogden, just a little bit more south, farther south.
Was that on purpose to get closer to the band hall?
Yes. Right? No, we just, my husband has dreams of, like, making it big in some business or something, some venture, and then building the pipe band, a band hall. And everybody has that dream.
Oh, yes.
But
Me
if
too,
we build
yeah.
it will definitely be in Ogden. We'll move the band up to Ogden.
If you build something like that, I might move up to Ogden and come audition, because that would be awesome.
We'll have a dedicated band hall.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be something.
I've heard, I understand that there was once a Celtic center, maybe not all that long ago, a Celtic arts center in Salt Lake that was a place for bagpipes and dancing and all kinds of stuff like that.
Really?
I wish there was something like that today. Yeah, just, I think maybe the Barclays had something to do with it. I don't really know exactly, but yeah, it was something, multiple rooms, and so you could have lessons, performances, that kind of stuff going on there. I never went myself, like I say, I just have heard. But.
Yeah, and when I was in high school, our instruction was coming from the Salt Lake Scots, and so part of that whole arrangement was that our high school members would also go down and play like parades and stuff with the Scots.
Yeah.
And so I remember going to the McMaster's shop and doing like rehearsals in their back rooms and stuff too.
Well, maybe it was them that were running it. I'm not sure. I got to find somebody who can give me the lowdown on this, because it's something I've heard of but don't really know.
Yeah. I've always wanted to hear more about like all of the history of piping, the recent history of piping in the northern Utah area. It's just a really interesting thing to think about.
Yeah.
To learn about.
Interesting, fun, and you get the feeling that there might be some juicy drama in there too. That's always fun.
That's my favorite part about like band trips, is you ride in the rental vans with everybody else and you get to hear all of the drama.
That's right. Now, do you have a song or tune? And I'm thinking pipes here, of course. No offense to tenor drum, but do you have one that is like often requested? That do you feel like is your most often requested tune?
Well, I mean, aside from like Highland Cathedral or Amazing Grace,
right,
or Skelton the Brave, I don't think anybody really knows any like of other tunes. Anybody that would be requesting me to play tunes.
That's the tricky thing with this art form, isn't it? I think for most people who don't play, it all sounds about the same, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I do feel like I've noticed more than one person in my life, as well as in the life of some other pipers who I've talked with, the Pumpkin's Fancy seems to be different enough that if people like it, they can remember, oh, there's that one about the pumpkin, play that one,
Yeah.
Probably because of the slides.
I hear, like Wicked Tinker's playing it, and you're like, oh yes, I really like that one. It's just, it adds another level of uniqueness to what bagpipes already are,
Yeah. But what about you, Leisel? Do you have any absolute favorite tunes? I guess I want to ask you this in maybe three parts. First, do you have any tunes that you've been playing ever since the beginning and they still are just great? You never got tired of them? Second, do you have any tunes that maybe you've picked up more recently that you're really excited about? Maybe you learned a Lincoln Hilton tune or something, something more recently that you're like, I really love this one. I just recently learned it and I'm jazzed about it. And then thirdly, what's at the top of your list for tunes you want to learn someday?
So I'm going to give you boring answers.
Bring it on.
My, as far as tunes, it's not, I mean, yeah, tunes are fun to play, but I don't hear tunes and say I must learn that,
Mm-hmm.
I learn tunes. I'm a pretty good sight reader, and so it's a different experience for me, I think, where like I put a tune in front of my face and I play it through and then I'm bored with it. Like, okay, obviously I can play that tune.
I'm envious of you. I know people like that. That's a cool skill set to have.
Yeah, and like higher grade tunes, I do have to go a bit slower, but then like once I play through it, it's like, okay, the level is beat. What do I do now?
Yeah.
Where do I go? Let's see, what was the second part of your question?
If you picked any tunes up recently that you're real excited about, maybe I don't know, new stuff for the band season or anything like that.
Yeah. So, not really. I haven't. Not lately, at least. Every now and then, like, I was learning Cock of the North for solos.
Oh, yeah.
For a little bit, and that was pretty exciting. I heard somebody say that, oh yeah, everybody plays that, or something like that, and I'm like, well, who cares? I'll have fun with it.
That's a great tune, though.
Yeah.
You know what, Leisel? I just, like, 2 weeks ago, I got my first ever request to play that tune for a funeral.
For a funeral?
Yeah. Which it's like, well, when the customer, like, actually knows a tune by name and requests it, it's like, of course I'll do it. But I was also like, really? You want that for the funeral? And this person was like, yeah, it's somehow tied to the family or something like that. Like, he had some genealogy reason for wanting it played. And I was like, yeah, sure. You bet. It was awesome. A nice break from Amazing Grace for me, so.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yep, I mean, I did pick up a tin whistle a couple of years ago.
Oh, cool, yeah.
Really liking that. One thing that I used to always like doing was playing just any old song that I could hear on my chanter, like trying to see if I could make it sound good.
Sure.
You know, like songs I hear on the radio.
Yeah.
Christmas songs, church hymns, you know.
Absolutely,
so,
yeah.
Picking up the tin whistle has been a lot like that, just playing things that I hear on that, and that's been more exciting than learning new bagpipes tunes. Yeah. Lately.
I think it makes sense. I've been feeling like we ought to all be advocating for all pipers to pick up whistles for a long time, just because it's such a natural thing to do, and it just kind of expands what you can play with, you know, for fun.
Yeah.
But I hadn't until really recently understood why some of my piper friends, like, I'd ask them the question, like, if your house is burning down, what instrument do you grab, you know? Or if you're on a desert island and you can only have one instrument, what would it be? And these are pipers who play uilleann pipes and highland pipes and all kinds of pipes, you know, and I would have thought one of those more expensive, impressive sets of pipes, right? And it seemed like a lot of people were saying whistles, right? Even Ross Ainsley, I asked him that question, and he said, oh, whistles for sure. And I'm like, wow, all right, well, maybe I should consider the whistle more carefully, you know, like take it more seriously than just thinking like, oh, it's a fun thing that you can do on the side, which of course it can be both things, you know, but.
Yeah, I wonder what the theory behind that is.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Why do people pick that?
Well, and it's like.
It's easy to play.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course it's got more range, you know.
Yeah, it fits in your pocket.
Yeah. Now,
you can't do that with your bagpipes.
That's for sure. Someday we need some more innovators in the alternative methods for making bagpipe space or something. Some telescoping drones or something like that.
Oh yeah.
And so no pressure then if you don't have any in mind. But do you have any tunes in mind that you think to yourself like I'd like to learn that someday?
I want to. This is back from my high school days again. I want to learn Hellbound Train with two other pipers.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I want to play that. I know that, I mean, some people have talked down on Hellbound Train, or maybe it's overused or something like that, but it's, I saw it performed with a drum set and three pipers, and I thought it was really, really cool. Yeah. And so, like, that'd be something someday I'd like to do, you know? Yeah. I don't know. I have to get two other pipers that are interested in learning it. So.
I was going to say, I think that Mike Swan has learned it before. He's up. He plays with the grade 2 band right now. And like amongst so many, I mean, Wasatch District has so many people in it. Like, surely there's got to be some more people in there who have played it before who could brush the dust off of it, you know, and join you. There's got to be.
Yeah.
So same year, concert in the park. You know, trombone and bagpipe duet and Hellbound Train. Got to make that happen, huh?
In the same year, it'd be the Leisel show. Come on.
The Leisel show, absolutely. Let's call it that year, absolutely.
Oh man.
Now, do you when you practice, do you have a really understanding partner and children, or do you have to go to a park or something to get your pipes and drum out?
And my husband is incredibly supportive of my piping, and my kids don't cover their ears and scream or anything when I play.
You've acclimatized them to it, haven't you?
Yeah. So it's a very nice environment within my space here for practicing. Yeah. I do live in an apartment, so I try not to practice as much here anyway, though, which inevitably means that I don't practice as much as I should on my pipes.
Yeah.
I play on my chanter quite a bit more than I do on my pipes because I don't want to upset my neighbors. But when we get the house finished, I've pretty much soundproofed my basement, so I'll be playing a lot more when we get in there.
That's so cool. So did that go into the consideration as you were designing things, like, and where am I going to play my bagpipes? Double insulation around this room.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
It was a big part of my planning. Is like, I need to be able to play music in this house without having anybody shout out their window, "Shut up!"
Right.
You know.
Do you? But when you're practicing tenor drum, do you get enough bounce out of a practice pad to be able to do the flourishes and stuff, or is it really not? Like, do you really need to get on the drum to get solid practice in on the tenor?
It does feel differently on the tenor. Mm-hmm. However, there is a type of practice pad that I found works pretty well, just as well. It's just the hard part is getting it to the right level in front of you. Like,
sure, yeah.
And the drum is, where, like, the practice pad is where your drum would normally be. But that's really only when you're trying to work on your tone and your approach to the drum. Flourishes can be done off the back of a chair or onto a notebook.
Okay.
It's like, like you just try and get yourself in front of a mirror so you can see your flourishes up in the air. So it's tenor drum practice is kind of a two-part thing. You have the note part. You've got the notes that you need to work on with the tone and the accents and stuff, but then you've also got, how does my flourishing look?
Yeah.
So
do you guys in the band you're playing with right now, do you do the multi-tone tenor drums, or is everybody tuned to the same? Yeah, you do, huh?
No, we have we're tuned differently. The higher drums are higher and the bigger drums are lower.
Yeah.
So it's in intervals determined by the drum sergeant. I know in other pipe bands, especially in grade 1 pipe bands, the lead tenor drummer decides what tones her drummers have, or his drummers, I guess, I don't know. They decide what their notes are and what tones they play, and in addition to what flourishing they do. But in Wasatch, we have the drum sergeant determines the notes and the pitches, but then the lead tenor gets to write the flourishing.
Gotcha. Now,
every now and then the drum sergeant will veto some of the flourishing. That just doesn't fit with the snares, So we have to change things occasionally.
The snares get to decide. Oh, that makes sense.
Right.
What you said there, though, Leisel, reminded me that, what do you think? Have you put thought into this, and do you have any ideas behind the? I don't think I'm wrong in saying that. There's an expectation that in general tenor drummers are girls. What's up with that? Why does it feel that way?
I don't even know. And I mean, so my experience with male tenor drummers before getting into Wasatch was that they were well, I mean, I don't want to offend anybody, but all of the male drummers that I had met before, the male tenor drummers that I met before getting out of high school, were homosexual.
Yeah, that's
so.
But yeah, look, we didn't make the world that we live in, right? So I hope it's clear that neither you nor I are saying that we want it this way. Just why is it this way? Like what?
Right. But now we have. When I started learning tenor drum in 2016, one of the tenor drummers was male, and he's very much straight, you know, and now we have another one of our grade 2 tenor drummers is male, and it's just not, you know, I mean, it's like female bagpipers.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a relationship there. If like girls couldn't play bagpipes for some reason for a long time, and so what else could they do? They got funneled over to tenor drumming.
Yeah, something like that, I guess.
The flourishes are pretty, and girls do pretty things. Maybe
someone should write a book.
Yeah,
the history of tenor drumming.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's nice that more females are getting into bagpipes and
totally.
more males are getting into tenor drumming. And I mean, you don't see very many female snare drummers.
Maybe that's the last frontier for inclusion. We know the next thing to do, huh?
Yeah.
get the borders broken down around everything.
Yeah. I think, and you know, I'm pretty much against this whole forced anti-discrimination. What is it? Forced. You know, colleges are like, we have to have a
quotas and stuff like that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm against that. I think it should just be completely organic. You bring in to your corps who fits in your corps, and whether that's a male or a female, it's a human, right? You're looking for humans.
Yeah, I think that makes sense as the ideal. You know, that race, gender, orientation wouldn't even be a consideration. It just happens organically, and maybe that's what we see more and more with piping and tenor drumming now. Like, I feel like everybody has the view of their own lifespan, of course. You know, so you can't really see very far before you are born, nor after you'll die, right? But it feels kind of like we maybe are straddling a time of shift where. It's perfectly, not only is it okay for girls to play bagpipes, if you were to bring it up pretty soon, it probably would be weird that you're even asking the question, right? Because it would be like, what do you mean, right? Because it becomes organic, right? And so maybe in a similar way, that's happening with tenor drumming and snare drumming as well, right?
Yeah. So I think one thing we need is more of the female pipers to become instructors, to start teaching. Because
representation matters.
And that will give young girls a more comfortable place to learn.
You know,
biologically, being a young girl in the presence of an older man is a bit scary.
Yeah,
you know? So.
Well, and there's also this thing that, so I have 3 boys and 1 girl. And I've asked all my kids, like, I don't want to force any of them, you know, but like I bring it up pretty regularly, like, hey, you going to play bagpipes when you get older, you know? And some of them, you know, they warm to it and they cool to it. And right now my oldest is kind of learning. And so maybe I'll get some of them to learn, you know. But my daughter has always said no, like kind of adamantly, no, she wasn't going to learn to play bagpipes. And then I showed her some of Piper Alley's videos. And one sitting, watching a few of those videos, I asked her, hey, Marin, do you think you want to play bagpipes someday? And she turned to me and grinned and said, yes, right? And so seeing yourself in the thing definitely makes a difference, you know? Like, I don't know how many girls she'd seen playing bagpipes, you know? Maybe that's why she said no. Maybe there was an unspoken assumption in her sweet child brain that, like, well, no, because people like me don't do that, you know?
Yes. Yeah, so, well, now I'm thinking of male tenor drummers, too, though. I mean, there's Ty Fry, and I saw one of his early competition videos from when he was a kid, and half of the other drummers he was playing with were male. So maybe this perception of there's not very many male tenor drummers, maybe that's a United States thing. Maybe in Europe it's a bit more balanced.
That's a good point. The tradition is maybe still somewhat underdeveloped in some ways here for various reasons. somewhat newer, maybe just a smaller grouping of the population is in it as well, and so it's kind of, maybe there's some barriers for pre-selection already at play.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Leisel, do you have any favorite pipers, drummers, pipe bands, or even trad groups kind of in this space to listen to, just for fun listening when you're driving around and stuff like that?
Well, I mean, so I have one of SFU's concert, like live at New York or whatever.
Oh yeah, I think the big ones are the Carnegie Hall and the Sydney Opera House, right?
Yeah, so it must have been Carnegie Hall.
Yeah.
So I have that CD, and I enjoy listening to that.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, I can. That's one thing I can hear is the stereo in my car. I had a Dodge Durango where that album sounded beautiful, and like I could put it in and it would be like, yes, everything is in tune. There's no like variation in wavelengths or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But now the two cars that we drive, the stereo systems aren't that great, and so I can't listen to that CD in the car anymore.
Oh, darn it.
They're holding a long note, and it sounds like they're just up and down.
Oh, man.
It's awful.
Yeah.
It's awful. So that's now a headset-only CD.
Headset-only listening.
Yeah, because I can't listen to it in the car anymore.
Yeah. I've wondered, like, to what degree that's a problem specific for bagpipes, or if we just pay more attention to it because we listen to bagpipes more closely and carefully. But I've also noticed that, like, on streaming platforms, some of them, there's something about the streaming rate or something that bagpipes don't sound good. And you can listen to the exact same track on a different service, or if you download it and listen to the file directly, it sounds great. But there's something about streaming it at a certain quality, there's something that goes wrong there that just does not sound nice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that's very real. Like, that's happening, And I've known some, like, audiophiles who only download their music in FLAC format because they can hear the difference, like, on their, versus the CD.
Right.
Playing off their CD versus playing it from their computer, they need it in FLAC,
Yep, totally. I dig it. And I feel like it's sad too. It's unfair in a way because, it might contribute to the difficulty in convincing non-pipers to listen to bagpiping. You have to make sure they're listening to it in the right format and with the right set of speakers, and because otherwise maybe it won't sound good, and they'd be justified in saying, no, I don't like the way that sounds,
Right, and you only invite them to the Scottish Festival if you know there's going to be some grade 3, grade 2
right,
bands.
yeah, totally.
The weather's good, and...
Yep. Yeah. Well, we can't let the art die out. We'll keep it alive. Everything will be okay.
Yeah.
Well, then, do you have any sort of like, I don't want to put any pressure on you, Leisel, to like say something wise or anything like that, right? I mean, feel free to if you want to, but usually these episodes would kind of fade toward an end, Do you have any like any advice that you've received that you think was helpful to you in your piping and drumming, or any suggestions? I mean, and this can be stuff about like, here's how to get your burls clean, but it can also be stuff like, practice is good, or I don't know. What would you like to say as we fade out is what I'm asking.
Yeah. So the biggest thing that I've learned that I try and tell everybody that I teach is practice makes permanent. So make sure that you're practicing correctly. And then, if you're practicing it wrong, it's going to be permanently wrong.